The big rivalry, Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Benn. Now this one was the same venue, it was the same contracted weight, same rehydration clause, and a completely different result and fight, like you said. We didn't get the war, we didn't get the instant classic, we didn't get the action, much more tactical. But and Ben gets the revenge for the family name and gets the win. Watching this fight, Bud, we did live stream it, like you said, and it's up. Everybody could go to the YouTube channel here at the fight. You could watch it. But you didn't even need to watch the live stream. You didn't need to watch the fight. And I keep saying this every single week, but it's the truth. I'm going to keep saying it. All you have to do is watch Teddy's predictions and previews here or join us at the ropes. That is 8 out of 9 winners. You are on fire. You did it again. And with that being said, when the fight began, it was everything that you said in the lead up, right? You said that Ben would probably be the hungrier guy. Eubank comes in a nice mink coat, looked like $1 million. Didn't look as hungry to me.
I think it's chinchilla, not even mink.
Yeah, he had the fur on. And you said in the lead up, 36 years of age now for Eubank Jr. heading into this one, that Ben would probably be the fresher man coming off of that war, right? And he was much younger, 29 years of age. That showed. You talked about the rehydration clause. You talked about the weight. A lot of people were saying, hey, he made the weight better this time. He went about it differently. He made the weight this time. The first time he missed it, he was fined. You didn't.
He might have been better off missing it. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. He would have been better off missing it. He would have been better off giving a couple more bucks and another Rolls Royce maybe to Ben. But to me, that's where this fight was lost. We saw it in the live stream. You saw it in the live stream. Round 1. The legs were gone. He looked like an older fighter. He looked like 36 years of age coming off of a war. And in the end, credit to Ben. Great game plan by his corner. He implemented it. Very tactical. Very smart fight. I've said enough. I want to hear from you, your thoughts. But just break down Ben Eubank Jr., the rematch.
Yeah, if a guy is drained, if a guy is drained as far as weight, we're talking about liquids. We're talking about water. And there's certain telltale signs. A lot of the fans were sending many texts and emails, messages to us asking me what the telltale signs would be. And if you watched the live stream with us, you got it firsthand. I was saying it. He's dry. He being Eubank. He's dry. It's outdoors. It's in the UK. It's an outdoors show. It's not hot there. It's cool there. He's dry. And it wasn't because of the weather. It was because there wasn't a lot of liquid inside him to come out, as much as there should be. You saw that Ben was moist. He was wet. You saw that Eubank was, even in the later rounds, in the middle rounds, that where you'd see a lather, you'd see some sweat. You didn't see it. And I'm taking into account the weather, but still, you should have seen some. But that's not what it was just about. That wouldn't be fair to Ben. Ben came prepared. He fought the right fight, and he was hungrier. I mean, the chinchilla told it all. And I'm not knocking Eubank. I mean, God bless him. You made the money. You earned it. You took a risk. You've taken risks through your life. Yeah, your fathers set this up. They did. So some people will say, oh, they piggybacked off their fathers. Do not dare to say that. Yeah, it was built up, the first one, because of the fathers and their history and all that stuff, and then the bad blood with them. But they did their part in that first fight. That was a historic fight. They gave everything, blood, guts, sweat. There was sweat, too, in the first one, yes. They gave everything in that first one to make this one. They earned it. They left parts of themselves in the ring in that first one. That was like the Drill in Manila, but instead it was in the UK. It came down to that, too. I said, this fight's going to come down to who left more in the ring. Because you leave parts of yourself in the ring, especially in a war. You do. You don't leave there. You leave there a little lighter. You leave there with a little less of yourself. Who left with less of themselves? And I said, I think it's Eubank. I think it's the guy who's 7 years older. I think it's the guy, you know, who has been around longer. And yeah, he's been in tougher fights. And that's part of the reason. Yeah, there's some more miles on his odometer. And I felt that would play. That was my starting place. And then I always say 75% is mental. Yeah, I understand the technical. Technical was going to be the same. The physical was going to be the same. It might have been tainted a little bit by one guy being less than he was, but it's going to be basically, it's going to be basically the same. It's going to be the bigger, longer, taller Eubank trying to control the outside. You know, geography. Control the outside, use his jab, try to catch him with uppercuts, try to catch him with counter left hooks, straight right hands, try to catch him coming in. Keep him at a place where it's an advantage for the bigger, longer Eubank and a disadvantage for the shorter Benn. Keep him on outside. Change your distance with your legs a little bit. Be set to punch at all times. And make him go through a bad neighborhood and try to mug him. That was going to be the play for Eubank like it was the first time. And the play was going to be the same for Benn. Benn was going to have the pressure, the burden, the risk. The risk was going to be inherently pushed over to his shoulders, where to win, he wasn't winning on the outside. He was going to have to get in. That meant taking risks. That meant bringing your feet. That meant coming forward. That meant moving your head. And he did. That meant using your jab. He used his jab beautifully, beautifully, beautifully. His jab was very important in the fight. I even said it. Some people will think I'm nuts, but I don't care. I made the analogy of Joe Frazier and George Foreman. Now, people would say, where do you get that from? That was all about power. That was about size. That was about the uppercut of George Foreman, you know, lifting Joe Frazier off the floor. Yeah, but then it was about the jab, the thunderous jab, the foam pole jab, the straight jab, the accurate jab of George Foreman, the great George Foreman, you know, making sure that it was discombobulating Frazier, keeping him from getting stable, keeping him from getting a rhythm, keeping him always in a bad place. And that's what Benn did with his jab too. His jab was really well placed, well timed, well done. And I know Eubank used his, but Benn was a little better. And getting inside, it was about the same. Benn had to get inside. When he got inside, he had to work. The first rounds, I was a little concerned. He was getting tied up. He was smothering himself. I said, listen, he works to get in. He takes the chance to get in, the risk to get in, the risk to get hit with the uppercut, to get hit with the left hook. He gets in, and then he lets himself get tied up. He can't do that. He's got to there's an old saying, you got to make hay when the sun is shining. You get inside, you got to work. You didn't go through that risk to get in there and then, you know, exchange phone numbers when you're going to have dinner. Hey, we get dinner next Friday. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we get together. We'll bring the girls. We'll have a nice time out. No, you got inside to do damage. You're the shorter guy, the shorter arms. You get inside. You got to go to the head and body. You got to do damage. And you get tied up, that can't happen. So it was incumbent on Benn to get inside, but keep free. Keep free. Don't get tied up. And early he wasn't, but then he started doing it. Then he started doing it a little bit better. So all of that was the same. But the mental part, the 75% of it, the reason why I locked in on Benn to win was I evaluated everything I just said. I locked in on him because the 75% mental part all favored Benn. There were things that changed. Benn, the first fight, Eubank was fighting really for his reputation. He was a guy that was known to be flamboyant. He was a great promoter like his father. He talked, he did this, he got stopped in some fights. He won most of his fights. There were fights where he came up short. The other guy, Ben, was undefeated. He was untested to a certain degree. But Eubank had more to prove. There were people that said Eubank is a product of his father. He's living off his father's, sleeve, his shirt tail. He had more to prove. He had to prove that he was more than a promoter, more than a talker. Yeah, I know he'd done that to a certain degree, but also he came up short sometimes. And this was the fight not to come up short. That first fight, it was all about Eubank being worthy of everything he said he was worthy of being more than a shadow to his father, being himself, being able to prove himself that there's more to me than just a silver tongue. And he proved it. Oh my God, he proved it. Ben did too. But my God, he took punches. He showed heart. He showed endurance down the stretch. He not only won on the outside, he went and matched Ben on the inside and fought inside with him and got the better down the stretch when he had to. It was magnificent. But it was probably his undoing for the rematch because he did it. Because he did what he had to do. He proved himself. And then there's one last part. And this was the most important part. He was fighting. Well, he was doing this. I think it's one of the most powerful things in mankind, in human life, human existence, that a son needs the approval of a father. He needs the acceptance, the love of a father. And I think the first fight, he was fighting for that. He was fighting for his father's acceptance, his approval. And they had a split. The father was concerned about the weight clause, about coming down to make the weight. And there was other things going on with their relationship. And at the end of the day, the father made a very public statement. He wasn't coming to the fight. And what happened? He showed up at the fight. How inspiring, how impactful was that in the first fight? We don't know. But I tell you one thing, it sure as hell didn't hurt him. His father showed up in that first fight, and he was there for his son. And his son went out there, and he handed his father that victory and everything that goes with that victory between a father and son. So in other words, Eubank had already accomplished so much more than getting a payday. He got a payday. Now he got even a bigger one. But no, he accomplished the most important thing in life. The acceptance of a father. The love of a father. And that was beautiful. And that was great. But that hurt him in the rematch. I felt that in the rematch, from the mental standpoint, it was going to be Ben. All Ben. Ben all night. Because now Ben had something to prove. Now the shoe was on the other foot. Now Ben was the guy who had to show something. Something else. I know he showed a lot the first time, but something else. And he had to defend his father. Because his father never beat Chris Eubank Sr. He had to defend his father's legacy. The pride of his son fighting for his father now. The reverse of the first one, when it was in the favor of Eubank. That was a big difference. To me, that made it a sealed deal that I like Ben. And I think he fought that way. I think he fought that way, that this fight, there was more urgency. It meant more. There was more desperation, whatever you want to call it. It meant more to Ben than it did to Eubank. And I'm not taking nothing away from Eubank, but I believe that that's what I saw. And I was willing to lay my money on it. And to tell people, yeah, be responsible. I'm never going to be right all the time. I'm wrong plenty. But be responsible if you want to have fun and bet. Otherwise, don't even bet. Just know that this is what I think while you watch the fight. Maybe it'll make it more entertaining and interesting to have, something to sort of a storyline of to follow as you watch the fight. And at the end of the day, Ben got it done. And I'll finish with this, and you touched on it, the fight plans. A lot of credit went to Eubank and Bomac. He's so well known, he's so famous, and he's got Crawford, and he does a great job, and him and his crew, excuse me, Bomac and his guys, they do a great job. They always have their guys ready. They always have them with the right fight plan. They really do. And they improve their fighters. And that's what a trainer's supposed to do if he's a real trainer. And there's not a lot of real trainers out there. Bomac is right there at the top. But we didn't give enough credit to Ben, his crew, his team. They came in with the right fight plan. Come in with the jab, feint a little bit. His feints were magnificent. He was feinting before he came in that front door just to get the counters out of the way, to get the left hooks or the right hands that Eubank was looking to time him with. The feint would get it out of the way, get him off balance a little bit, get him off stride, off rhythm. And then when you come in a little safer. That feinting idea of feinting in the game plan was the right idea. It was brilliant. It helped. It worked. And coming in behind the jab and moving your head the way he did, all of it. Credit to Ben and his people that they were prepared. So was Eubank. The difference was what I said from the mental, emotional standpoint. I think that was probably the thing that drove this fight, that drove this car.
Yeah, no, well said. Couldn't agree with any more of what you said. I'll say this, a couple final points that I'll add in here. We talked about it in the preview, in the lead up last week, that I thought he should have went the Ryan Garcia route. And we touched on it already, that he should have missed weight. And credit to Eubank. He was a professional. He made the weight that he was contracted to make. But I thought he should have gave up a couple bucks and not drained himself that way.
I don't, because that's not fair. That's almost like cheating, bud. It's almost like cheating. I get what you're saying. Strategically, management-wise.
Hey, Ben wanted another Rolls Royce. He was happy to accept it. That's part of the game. That's part of the contract. It happened with Garcia and Haney. I get where you're coming from. You never had a fighter in your life miss weight. But on the flip side of that, the one thing that was way different this go around and was glaring to me, the bigger man wasn't the bigger man. And it wasn't just because he was drained. Obviously, part of it. Ben bulked up, and he was a big son of a gun this go around. He was 167 pounds on the rehydration the day of the fight. And I thought he was the bigger man, the stronger man drawing the fight, especially on the inside, even on the clinches. I thought that was glaring difference in this fight. It almost made also the difference in the end. Like you said, we had Ben plus 150 to win. We just missed the knockout of plus 275. He did score 2 knockdowns at the end. There was another 10, 20 seconds. Might have got that one too.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up that point because I made it early in the fight during the live streaming. I said, wow, what's he on, a weight program? He looks like he must have been picking up weights, his back, his shoulders. Ben, we're talking about, he was bigger, he was stronger. You're right, 100%. And like I said, we said that, I think we said in the first round, as soon as the fight started. So, yeah, he was ready. He was ready in every freaking way. And he wasn't going to be denied. He wasn't going to be denied. The only thing I was worried about with him was he keeps his left hand low. And not only coming in, but when he stepped back, that he was vulnerable to getting hit with right hands. And that was the punch that when he did get hit, that was the punch that at the end of the day that he had to be wary of. Really, even though Eubank throws a nice counter left hook too, and the uppercut too, but it was the right hand that was going to do him in if he got done in. But at the end of the day, they got it done. At the end of the day, here's one last thing. You brought up a nice point when we did the live stream. You said, what does he do? What does he do now? What does he do now? Besides going to an accountant to make sure his money is properly put into the right areas, because he made a lot of money. What does he do now, bud? And you said, does he go back to really what his weight was? Because these fights are not indicative of what really Ben. These became one-offs. These became opportunities. Opportunities because of the father's history to fight catch weight fights out of his weight to make a lot of money. And they did. But now what does he do? He was a welterweight. What's he do now? I'll tell you what he doesn't do. No one else is going to say this maybe. It's all right. I don't think he goes back to welterweight. Just from what you just said, he bulked up to 167. He was muscle. Muscle is hard to get rid of. You try to chisel away at the muscle, you chisel away at the person. And you deplete that person. You hinder that, but you wind up undoing that person and undermining that person. Maybe that happened to Roy Jones after he beat Ruiz for one of the heavyweight titles, and then he went back to light heavyweight. He put all that muscle on. He had to take it off. He went back down. I don't think that did him any good. And I don't know if Ben now, I don't know. You get the right nutritionist, you do it the right way. Yeah, okay. But I'm not so sure they're going to be that. He still he's not that big. So, even though he got stronger in his muscles and his back, but he's not the frame, the skeleton, the height. He's not that big. To be fighting those really bigger guys that are a little younger. So I don't know what they do. I don't know if they, but again, I don't know if they go back to 147, which I think would be the inclination to say, okay, go back to the weight that you really are and fight at your weight. And let's see what you do at your weight. I don't know if he can ever go back to that now.